nacional, de organizaciones no gubernamentales, de organismos multilaterales de la comunidad académica, del sector privado, señores de la prensa, señoras y señores, tengan todos ustedes muy buenos días. En nombre de los organizadores de este evento, le damos la bienvenida al Encuentro Regional de las Américas de la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto. Saludamos y damos la bienvenida también a los integrantes del acto de apertura. Nos acompañan aquí el señor Juan Andrés Roballo, prosecretario de Presidencia de la República, el señor José Klastornik, director ejecutivo de Civic, el señor Sanjay Kumar Pradhan, director ejecutivo de la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto, la señora Emilén Martínez, coordinadora regional de la Sociedad Civil para las Américas de la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto, la señora Virginia Pardo, directora del área de Ciudadanía Digital de Civic, y el señor Fabricio Scrolini, representante de la Red de Gobierno Abierto. Este evento, que ha sido declarado de interés nacional por Presidencia de la República y de interés turístico por el Ministerio de Turismo, es organizado en conjunto entre la Presidencia de la República, Civic, la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto y la Red de Gobierno Abierto. Con este encuentro estamos inaugurando la tercera edición regional y en línea con los principios de cooperación y participación que impulsan a la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto, se buscará de los participantes aportes para el armado de una agenda que refleje los intereses y prioridades de la comunidad de gobierno abierto en nuestra región. Como pilar, nos planteamos continuar con la idea iniciada en la Cumbre Global de México de 2015 y dar nuestro aporte desde el gobierno abierto a impulsar la agenda para el desarrollo sostenible desde la óptica particular del desarrollo humano. A continuación, entonces, vamos a dar paso a los integrantes del acto de apertura. En primer lugar, hará uso de la palabra el director ejecutivo de Civic, señor José Klastornik.
Está buena la tarima porque parecemos más alto. Buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos al evento y bienvenidos a Montevideo a todos aquellos que nos acompañan desde el exterior y que han hecho el esfuerzo de venir a esta ciudad. Probablemente y lamentablemente no van a conocer la ciudad tan linda como es, porque el clima no nos está acompañando, no es la mejor versión de la ciudad la que ofrece el clima que tenemos hoy. No invita demasiado a caminar por la Rambla Sur, que es un lindo paseo, que si tienen un poco de tiempo va a estar interesante que hagan. Muchas veces en estas conferencias nos lamentamos por un lugar que debido al trabajo difícilmente logramos salir del espacio de la conferencia. Bueno, con el clima un poco nos evitaron la duda ni la decepción para beneficio del evento. O sea, en la medida que el clima los obliga a estar un poco más, creo que vamos a tener mucho más intercambio. Vamos a aprovechar al máximo el evento organizado con el esfuerzo de muchos. Vamos en particular a señalar a los que nos acompañan en esta mesa de apertura, el señor Sanjay Pradhan, director ejecutivo de la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto, a quien agradecemos su presencia en nuestro país. Sabemos que las Américas es una región muy importante para la Alianza, con 17 de sus 64 miembros, y nos sentimos honrados por el voto de confianza que implica para nosotros que hayan seleccionado a Uruguay como sede de este evento. Al señor Fabricio Scrolini, representante de la Red de Gobierno Abierto de Uruguay, coorganizadores del encuentro y con quien tenemos una historia ya de varios años de trabajo conjunto, impulsando todos esos temas por los cuales reflexionamos en estos 2 días. El señor Juan Andrés Roballo, prosecretario de la Presidencia de Uruguay, mi jefe, a quien además de asistir directamente al presidente, tiene bajo su responsabilidad la dirección política de temas muy diversos como la cooperación internacional, la seguridad vial, los sistemas de emergencia, de antilavados de drogas, gobierno electrónico y sociedad de la información. En medio de todos esos temas, desde el primer momento, como alto funcionario de este gobierno, no ha dudado en dar el mayor respaldo a las acciones que desde AGESIC estamos emprendiendo para contribuir a mejorar la calidad de vida de las personas con un buen uso de la tecnología, y es un convencido del carácter abierto de un gobierno, que el carácter abierto de un gobierno debe darse por defecto. Es una de las frases que más estamos tratando de establecer hoy, el gobierno abierto por defecto. Y a las señoras Emilén y Virginia Pardo, Emilén Martínez y Virginia Pardo, que ustedes conocen también como yo, incansables trabajadoras, grandes promotoras de la transparencia, la participación y el aprovechamiento de la tecnología, en lo que implica en el fortalecimiento de la gobernabilidad, manteniendo siempre ese espíritu de colaboración que es tan necesario para que todo esto sea viable. Nos ha sorprendido positivamente la gran receptividad que ha tenido el encuentro. Hay más de 700 personas registradas, más de 400 de los registrados vienen de fuera del país, aunque no sabemos cuántos de ellos finalmente estarán logrando estar aquí. Quiero agradecer desde ya a la organización, no a la institucional que nos toca, sino a la organización desde las personas, que son los que siempre hacen que estos eventos sean viables, a todos los nombres ocultos que a veces uno no dice, no solo desde las organizaciones que están en esto, sino desde los técnicos, solinistas, iluminadores, la gente que hace viable esto desde el desconocimiento muchas veces en la explicitación de su aporte. No quiero extenderme mucho, solo quise intervenir para saludarlos y desearles un gran intercambio de aprendizaje todos estos días. Voy a tener otro espacio para hablar un poco más. Los organizadores, que les decía que se comportaban tan bien, organizaron un evento para que las Américas se encuentre todavía un rato más, es a partir del viernes en Estados Unidos, y ahí hablaremos de fútbol y no de gobierno abierto. Pero mientras tanto espero que disfruten este evento en todo lo que estamos tratando de proponer, que discutan, que presionen, que vayan un poquitito más allá de los límites que normalmente tenemos para hacer que el evento sea todo lo productivo que todos queremos que sea. Muchísimas gracias a todos y bienvenidos.
Agradecemos las palabras del señor José Klastornik. Seguidamente damos la palabra al director ejecutivo de la Alianza para el Gobierno Abierto, señor Sanjay Kumar Pradhan.
Good morning, everyone. You can hear me? Thank you so much. It's absolutely lovely to be here. And I wanted to first thank you very much, Mr. Pro Secretary, to the Uruguayan civil society, to Uruguayan government for hosting us and for welcoming us so warmly on this cool morning, as you said just now. You know, it's my first month in the job in OGP, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to come here for the Americas regional meeting. Because for us in OGP, Americas represent the vibrant center, the heart and soul of OGP. And this vibrancy comes from the very hard work, from the commitment of stakeholders, diverse stakeholders, who have rallied together to make change happen through the OGP. And this diverse ecosystem is witnessed in the conference we have here today. We have here today journalists who have spoken truth to power. We have human rights defenders, and we have committed government officials who are fighting for openness amidst formidable odds. And this strength of vibrancy and commitment of the stakeholders, which I witnessed live yesterday in the Civil Society Day and in the Points of Contact Day of government officials, this is a key strength of OGP for the Americas to be leveraged in the next phase of OGP. So the next phase of OGP is going to be really vital. And I wanted to share with you that at the UN General Assembly in September this year, OGP will be completing 5 years, the first 5 years of its existence. And in these first 5 years, there have been some important initial accomplishments. 69 countries have voluntarily joined OGP, which has been really fast, and thousands of civil society organizations have joined OGP. And together they have generated thousands of commitments which are being independently assessed by OGP's independent review mechanism, or IRM, on whether governments are living up to their commitments. So this is important initial progress. But I want to look forward, because in the next 5 years, success of OGP is not going to be measured by the number of countries that have joined or by the number of commitments that countries make, impressive as they may be. In the next 5 years, the success of OGP, the success of the collective efforts of all of us in this room is going to be measured quite simply by whether OGP delivers a transformative impact in the lives of ordinary citizens, and whether it can tackle bigger challenges. And here I want to share with you that we have some significant challenges to tackle together. So the independent review mechanism, or IRM, that I mentioned, it does an assessment of countries' progress. And what it finds is that the Americas, even though it compares worldwide on par in terms of its rate of completion of the action plans, it ranks relatively low in the degree of ambition in whether it has transformative commitments, by which we mean whether those commitments will make a significant difference in society. In fact, only 12% of the commitments are seen to be potentially transformative, and only 6% of them are completed. So, looking at the next 5 years, the collective challenge for all of us is to raise the collective ambition and transformative power of OGP so it can make a difference in the lives of people, and so it can solve real tough challenges that the region faces, whether it's inequality, whether it's grand corruption, whether it's human rights violations, whether it's youth crime and violence. Those types of challenges need to be addressed. And I know that OGP right now has not always been successful in addressing those challenges. We have glimpses of it when reformist leaders from government and civil society activists work together. We have glimpses of what can happen. But building on these glimpses, for the next 5 years, I want to suggest to you in this conference that maybe we can together challenge ourselves to work together to tackle some big challenges. It is going to be hard, but I think it is possible if we have collective effort that we join together. So for that, let me give you some examples of tough challenges, tough societal challenges, like grand corruption and so on, that could be tackled with difficulty, but with collective effort. So let me give you some examples of, based on what I see, leveraging the OGP platform. Take scandals of high-level corruption, including the Panama Papers. Can OGP help? And let me give you an example of how with collective effort it can help. So 2 weeks ago, I was at the London Summit on anti-corruption, which was convened by UK Prime Minister David Cameron. And at the London Summit, the OGP got positioned as the ambition, implementation, and accountability arm of the anti-corruption summit. Now, what does that mean for the Americas? What it concretely means for the Americas is that countries in the region can join hands with, let's say, United Kingdom and South Africa to raise their collective ambition on beneficial ownership transparency. That would be the ambition arm of the OGP. Take those commitments that were made in London and translate them into the national action plans. There are about 80% of America's countries are preparing action plans right now. Translate it in those action plans, that would be the implementation arm. And have the IRM, the Independent Review Mechanism, and civil society play an oversight role, that would be the accountability arm. I would suggest that we can perhaps together challenge ourselves that in the next 5 years, there will be no anonymous companies in the region for corrupt public officials or others to stash their stolen wealth. We can perhaps take a collective challenge to ensure that all countries in the region embrace open contracting standards so all contracts are open. In other dimensions of grand corruption also, countries like Mexico and other countries in the region can take a leadership role in passing and scaling inspirational reforms that hit at the roots of political corruption. For instance, Mexico's Tres de Tres, if that can be passed, which was a civil society initiative where civil society got support of over 500,000 citizens demanding that public officials declare their assets, declare their conflicts of interest, and declare their taxes. The other concern that we hear in the region is the impunity of corrupt public officials. But can we together try to ensure that in the next phase of OGP, there is a new partnership between investigative journalists, civil society organizations, and law enforcement agencies, and even justice officials, so that there are new commitments on open, credible enforcement against corruption, so that we get at this issue of impunity. These were just some examples that with determined efforts, we could make an impact in the challenge of grand corruption. Now take another problem that I've heard is so important in the region, which is the problem of youth violence and crime. And I ask you, can OGP help? So for this, let me take you to another part of the world, to the Middle East. And in the Middle East, as you know from newspapers and the reality around you, that the biggest challenge in the Middle East is violent extremism and youth radicalization. And in my previous job at the World Bank, where I was vice president, I was looking at this agenda, and we found something which may be relevant for the Americas in dealing with youth violence. And what we found is that the roots of radicalization in the Middle East is not poverty. The people who bombed 9/11 didn't do so because they were poor. It's because they feel excluded, and they have grievances that governments are not able to address. So just as we are starting to do in the Middle East, right after this plenary, I will be catching a flight to go to Tunisia to work with the cabinet in Tunisia. Can we in OGP processes put youth in the center of the co-creation process of OGP? Can we put youth in the center so that OGP action plans respond to their grievances and concern, and so that youth can have a role in monitoring the implementation of programs, including using social media and ICT? Or take another example that we hear about in the region, which is human rights violations. Can OGP set new standards to protect and enhance human rights and civic space, exemplified last month by OGP's steering committee, quite frankly, to list Azerbaijan as inactive because it was seen to be curtailing and shrinking civic space? And let me take a final big challenge, which we could perhaps together work on, which is how do we ensure that basic services reach the citizens? These are all grand corruption, but for the ordinary citizen, what matters is health, education, sanitation, water supply. Can OGP help with the delivery of those day-to-day concerns? And here, I think also we can make a difference, but it will require a big step forward for OGP, because it means that OGP needs to expand to more sectors like health and education. And when you look at OGP commitments, only 2.5% of the commitments are presently in health and education each. And broadening the sectoral focus will include more government ministries and broaden the base of civil society, which is a real challenge going forward. But here also the important thing is not just to focus on transparency, but also on citizen feedback and accountability. Transparency is a very important thing. 70% of the commitments are transparency. But in the next phase, we need to go into civic engagement and accountability. Very good examples come right here, Mr. Pro Secretary, from Uruguay, where last year's winner of the Open Government Award was this innovation in Uruguay where citizens had unparalleled access to performance indicators of health providers. Or in the city of Maldonado in Uruguay, there's a very innovative citizen grievance mechanism that's just been put in, where citizens can give grievances, can give their feedback to cities, and they can track where their grievance is in terms of where the government responds. In the Philippines, the government is disclosing its major expenditures on a digital platform, which is geocoded to the local level. And citizens are now doing social audits to tell the government, did they receive the post-typhoon relief expenditures that were meant for them, whether teachers showed up in school, whether they got whether they got the conditional cash transfers. The point is that if OGP can work with civil society organizations that can be the voice of the voiceless, and if governments can respond to that feedback, we can close the feedback loop and ensure that in the next 5 years, there's impact on the citizens. I just took you through a tour of a few big challenges to say that with collective effort, we can make a difference, which can actually help tackle corruption, clean up politics, engage youth, and empower citizens in public service delivery, which affects their daily lives. Now, you would be saying, this is, of course, easier said than done, and that's correct. And the biggest challenge for us is how do we actually make this happen? But you know, coming here in my first month in the job, what gives me hope is what I have seen to be the vibrancy of the movement here, the vibrancy of actors here. And in order to leverage that and translate that in results, one critical thing that will be required is a genuine co-creation process between government and civil society. And here, while they're in the region, 13 out of 17 countries have instituted permanent dialogue mechanisms, we also know that the process of co-creation is quite uneven. There are power asymmetries. And in some countries, we are even seeing setbacks in the co-creation process. That has to be reversed. But if committed public officials and committed civil society activists can join hands within countries and across countries, in the next 5 years, they can leverage OGP as a mechanism and transform it into OGP as a movement. So over the next 5 years, we need to transform OGP from a mechanism into a movement. So you may say that this is impossible, and I want to leave you with a final visual, a final thought, a final example from nature, which actually tells you that if nature can do it, why can't we? So I'm about to show you a short visual from nature, if the technology supports me. And what you will see are these phenomena in nature. They're called murmurations. And you will see these little birds called starlings. Starlings are these little birds that are found in parts of Europe. And they are vulnerable to the falcon. The falcon is a big predator that can come and swallow the starlings. And so what you see here are these little starlings that are found in different parts of Europe. And you'll see there are small birds that are vulnerable to prey. They live in these small chaotic colonies. They are not organized. They don't have civil society organization at this point. But you see, what happens at around dusk time is that they start to fly and soar in the sky. And they start to make some kind of a formation. So, you know, if fish have schools, if bees have swarms, starlings form murmurations, and they're known as murmurations because of the sound they produce. So what you see here is they start to form their own civil society organization or their own government or their own murmuration in the sky. Now this murmuration has a function. The function is to ward off the falcon. There you see the falcon. The falcon is many times the size of the starlings. But look at the power of the collective. These individual starlings that were individually so small, look when they form their collective power. When they join hands together, they start to drive off the falcon, that grand challenge of the falcon. So look at that individual starling that was individually seeming so hopeless, the power of what it can do when it joins hands. I will submit to you that ordinary citizens and the poor in our countries are like starlings. They feel individually hopeless and helpless in the face of grand falcons like state impunity, like human rights violations, like crime, like grand corruption. What power does the individual citizen have to tackle those big falcons of grand corruption or state impunity? But if citizens can band together to form civil society organizations, if civil society organizations can join together to form networks and coalitions of civil society